In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how easy it is to install an IRVWPC unit on your RV water pump. Now, for this purpose of the video, we have this little demonstration pump set up. It's powered up, and of course this is the annoying pump shake, rattle, and roll. It's not making a lot of noise here because of course it's not connected to your RV's piping, but of course we can see how badly the pump shakes. So let's get started. In your IRVWPC package, you will have an IRVWPC module. Let's open this up. You have a wiring harness, which you can see here. We supply the 4 Wago connectors. You have 2 mounting screws. You have a small screwdriver for adjustment inside the module. And we have an Allen wrench should you require adjustment of the pressure switch on your RV water pump. Also in the package, and this is very important to the system, is our inline IRVWPC pressure transducer. And this will get installed on the outlet pressure side of the pump. So to begin, the first thing we have to do is to shut off power to the RV water pump. Now, in your case, you can just turn off the pump switch. That'll disconnect power from the pump. Now, with the power turned off, we have to relieve pressure on the outlet side. So what you'll have to do is open a faucet. Now, once opening the faucet and taking the pressure off, if you close the faucet so that you don't allow any air into the system, it'll probably give you enough time to remove the outlet connection from the water pump, install the sensor, and get it back without having water everywhere. I suggest you have some towels, paper towel handy, maybe a small cup underneath here to catch water. We're just going to do this with some paper towel, and we're obviously not going to have very much water because it's gravity draining down to the bottom. Okay, so with the hose disconnected, we have to install the pressure sensor. The pressure sensor threads on very easily to the outlet side of the pump, and you have to be very careful. You don't want to push on the connector stem. You want to just rotate this sensor by the body until you feel contact with the rubber washers that make the seal. And that's about this point. It is recommended that rather than pulling on the sensor body to tighten it, we use a small adjustable wrench just to position the sensor vertically. And this is pretty firm. And we'll just make sure that we get compression on the rubber washers. And that's it. Now, the sensor should be installed in a vertical position if you winterize your RV. We don't want any water to get trapped within the sensor body that could potentially freeze and damage the sensor. You can install this, anywhere between, let's call it a 10 o'clock position, or if I was to tighten it more, a 2 o'clock position. I don't have to tighten it anymore. This is sufficiently tight enough on the pump here to make a seal. So it's just a matter of restoring the plumbing connection on the outlet side of the sensor. Now, if your RV pump is located close to a wall and you cannot fit this sensor in, and by the way, this sensor takes approximately 1 inch and 5/8 increased space. So you can easily measure to see if you have 1 inch and 5/8 to a wall. You might have to remove the 4 screws in your pump and shift your pump over a bit to fit this sensor in. Okay, so now we've got the sensor connected. The next step is to connect the wires to the RV water pump. Now, most RVs are connected and use a white lead as the negative of the pump. And the power wire can be anything from a red to a yellow to an orange. It's typically some other color. If you're not sure of what the polarity is, I suggest that you test that with a multimeter to make sure that you know what the positive is and what the negative is. We have had cases where RV manufacturers have connected the white wire or the negative wire to the red of the RV water pump, and the pump still runs because it's a diaphragm pump. So even if the motor runs backwards, it doesn't matter for pumping. when we connect up the IRVWPC module, we must have positive connected to positive. Okay, so let's get started making the connections to the pump and the RV. So let's start with the positive wire. Now what we've done is we've color-coded the positive to match some of the most typical RV colors. So typically they use a yellow or an orange. And we're going to connect the positive to the positive of the RV. And you can verify this with a multimeter. You should, if you're not sure, you can check with a multimeter to make sure in your RV you know what is positive and what is negative. So we've got the yellow wire connected. Now we're going to connect up the white wire, and we've matched the same color. The Wago connectors make it very simple. So now that we've got the power connected, all we have to do now is connect the red and the black wires to the matching red and black on the water pump. And we'll just make sure there's no loose strands here. And lastly, the black wire. Okay, now we've completed the connection and the module's connected to the pump. Now what we can do, it's recommended that you leave the sensor disconnected. What we want you to do is we want you to run the RV water pump the way it normally was in your RV, just to purge the air out. With the sensor disconnected, the IRVWPC module will detect a sensor fault and it will basically turn on 100%. So having the module turn on 100% is the same as just connecting all these wires the way they were originally. And now we're going to apply power to this. Now, we've got the module disconnected. The IRVWPC unit is showing a green LED and it's flashing a sensor fault. That'll be 3 blinks. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as you can see, the pump runs normally like it did before, and we have no leaks here on the outlet side. We're going to close it off. It's full pressure. It's not leaking. We're going to disconnect the power, and now we're going to connect the sensor. The sensor only goes in one way. There's a little locking tab and there's a little bump on the outside of the sensor. You align the locking tab with the slot, and it's a waterproof connector, and you install it till you hear that firm click. Now we're going to turn on the module. Now if we have a look at the LEDs, we'll see we have a slow blinking green LED. Now that's the idle state. Now when you first apply power to the module, the software in the module has to figure out that the pump is not running. So there's a little bit of analysis that takes place. It usually takes about 5 seconds for the LED to start blinking the idle condition. You know, the pump's not running, but for the module's sake, it's figuring out what's happening to the system. So now we have a slow blinking LED. Now what we can do is we can open a faucet, and we now see we don't have the thumping pump, and the IRVWPC is regulating the RV water pump. And now we have a slow running faucet, and you can see that the pump isn't moving, shaking at all. As we increase the output of the pump, I mean, it still is the same water pump. So the motor is going to go up to 100%. And I mean, the noise that it produces at 100% would be the same noise that it produced at 100% without the IRVWPC module. But what the module does is eliminate all the shock and shake from 0 up to the 100%. And as I'm turning the valve, you can see it's regulating the speed of the water pump. I mean, we can hear the water noise as the water is getting throttled by this shutoff valve here. But the IRVWPC will control the pump right down to the point where the pump barely operates, and that was the point. There will be a very small amount of vibration at the lowest speed. It's just like the engine in your car. You can't idle the motor below below 600 RPM. You know, there is a point where the DC motor will not turn, but we have smooth operation throughout the entire range of the water pump. Yeah, and that concludes the video. Thank you very much for watching. This includes the installation of the basic package on the most common RV water pump.